Hello there, this is Toby, and I'm gonna do a demo of Testem in its development mode, which is specifically designed to improve the test-driven development workflow. And for this demo, I'm gonna do a string calculator kata. Um, so and I'll describe a little bit more what the exact problem is, but right now let me make a project directory for that. So I'm gonna call this string calculator, and I'm gonna go in there and open up my text editor. Okay, so I'm going to run Testem. So this is the Testem user interface, and the first thing I need to do is connect a browser to it by opening up this URL in the browser. And so right away it tries to run the tests, but since there are no tests to be run at this time, it just shows 0 out of 0. That's okay. An alternative is to have Testem auto launch the browser for you, and you can do that. You can do that by first you can ask it using the launchers command the set of browsers that it knows about. So I've got Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Opera, and Phantom.js installed on the machine, and Testem knows how to launch them. And they're all browsers. And I can tell it to auto launch one of these browsers by using the configuration file. I'm just gonna ask it to auto launch Chrome for me. So I'm gonna make a configuration file and call it testem.yml for YAML. You can also use .json if you prefer that. And to make it auto launch a browser or a number of browsers in development mode, you would say launch in dev and give it a list of browser names that corresponds to the names in this browser list. So I'm gonna say launch Chrome in development basically. And now if I launch Testem, it automatically launches Chrome for me, and when I quit, it'll kill the Chrome process for me as well. So that's nice. I'm gonna go with this, and I'm gonna just hide the browser in the background because I won't really be needing it for the most part, because all the output that I need for doing TDD will be displayed in the Testem window. So and in the most basic mode of operation, Testem will just simply pick up all the JavaScript files in your current directory. In this case, it's my project directory, and just run them. And Testem's default framework is Jasmine. And I could also explicitly say that I'm using the Jasmine framework. Jasmine? Yeah. I could also explicitly say I'm using the Jasmine framework, and I would do the exact same thing. Alright. Anyway, so let's write a test. And I'm gonna call this tests.js here. I'm gonna start writing some tests in Jasmine. Okay, let me describe the problem right now. In the string calculator problem, we need to write an add function, which takes in a string, and the string contains some numbers, delimited by commas or some other delimiters. For simplicity's sake, we're just gonna say it's always delimited by commas. So it's basically a comma delimited string of numbers, and we need to parse out the numbers and sum them, and that's all this function does. So very simple really, and let's get started with that. So the generate case that I wanna test is the empty string, so it should return 0 for the empty string. So I expect add of empty string to be 0. And when I save, Testem will automatically pick up the new file on the directory and execute it. And I'm getting back this reference error. Add is not defined, which is what we would expect because I haven't written an add function yet. So let's make another file called add.js and make an add function in there. Oh, and by the way, I like to tile everything when I'm working so that I don't have to switch back and forth all the time. So, and that's kind of the same idea with Testem, is that you have your terminal window tiled next to your text editor so that as you save the files, you don't have to rerun the command or anything like that. It'll just sort of live update for you. And same with the text editor, I prefer to have them split paneled top and bottom so that I don't have to sort of have this big context switch every time I have to switch files. So anyway, here it's expecting a 0, so I'm just gonna hard code a 0 in to pass this test. So that was pretty easy, but let's go for the next test. Let's put in a real number this time. So it should return number 1 for the string 1. Oops. And that fails, which is good, what we would expect. This time let's actually parse the number. And we're gonna use parse in and base 10. Except that it failed my first test. So when you do a parse in on the empty string, it gives you back not a number. So what should we do about that? Well, let's just do a quick fix and do an OR here. So if this were the empty string, it'll fall back to 0, and that allows us to pass that one. Now let's do a variable number of numbers. Let's say it should return 3 for 1 and 2. That failed. So I probably want to split the string on the comma, and I want to create a sum and loop over the numbers. Let's just go right to that. And I'm gonna loop in reverse because that loop is slightly faster. And sum it all up, and at the end return sum. What happens here? Looks like expected the string 0 to be 0. Let's see here. Return 0, expected the string 0 to be 0. Oh, okay. I didn't convert it to a number, so let's do that. Oops. Do that. That passed 2 of my tests. I again have that not a number problem, so I'll use the same trick to fix it. Okay, so this function satisfies these three requirements. Oh, actually, there's another thing I wanted to show you. Let me just jump right back to it. You can actually print out console.log statements in anywhere in your program, and you will be able to see those log messages here in the Testem console. So let's say maybe I wanted to cache this value. And I want to console.log it. You'll see the result down here. And when there is any amount of log messages like this, it'll sort of do a split panel. So you have a top half of the panel showing you the test results and the bottom half showing you the log messages. You can do console.error as well, like this, and the error messages will show up in red. This is particularly useful when you need to debug something, maybe even throw some console messages here inside the loop or something. That can be very helpful sometimes, like that. So, all right.